Bonsoir et bienvenue au Congrès national libéral de 2021. Nous sommes ravis d'accueillir des milliers de sympathisants à ce congrès qui se déroule de façon inédite puisque vous êtes de partout au Canada et vous êtes probablement installés dans votre salon ou à votre table de cuisine. Je m'appelle Mona Fortier et je suis députée pour Ottawa-Vanier. Et je tiens à reconnaître la terre sur laquelle je suis présentement, qui est la terre traditionnelle de la nation algonquine et le peuple Anishinaabe. Ce soir, je suis ravie de faire partie des 4 coprésidents de ce congrès et j'invite les autres coprésidents à se présenter également. Alors, je commence avec toi, Terry. À ton tour.
Hello, everybody. I'm Terry Beech, your Member of Parliament for Burnaby North Seymour, and I would like to start by acknowledging that I am in my office at my house, which is located on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Stolo, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. This past year has shown the ingenuity and resilience of Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And the unique way we're coming together for this convention, well, it's no exception. No matter whether we are in person or virtual, the number of people attending this weekend speaks to the momentum and support that our party has as we all work together to build back better. And I'm pleased to announce that this, right here, right now, is the largest policy convention in the history of the Liberal Party of Canada. Over to you, Marci.
I can't hear.
She's on mute.
Hello. Hi, Terry. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so very much. I'm honored to serve as a member of Parliament for Toronto Centre. I am Marci Ien. I too, Terry, am working in my home office, but would like to acknowledge that I'm on the land, the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, Métis, and Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. Together with my colleagues here today, I want to warmly welcome you. We are so excited. We are welcoming Canadians from coast to coast to coast to our first ever virtual Liberal National Convention. As Justin Trudeau and our Liberal team continue working to deliver crucial support for Canadians, everything from the economy to health, the environment, equality, and so much more. This virtual convention will lay the foundation for the hope as well as the hard work that is ahead. Rachel, à toi.
Merci beaucoup, Marci. Quel plaisir de pouvoir co-présider ce congrès avec toi et avec vous tous. Je m'appelle Rachel Bendayan, je suis la députée fédérale d'Outremont et très fière québécoise, bien entendu, et je vous parle depuis ma cuisine ici à Montréal avec ma petite Ellie. Je tiens à reconnaître que je me retrouve sur le territoire traditionnel des Mohawks. Et lors des prochains jours de ce congrès, nous aurons l'occasion d'écouter divers conférenciers, panélistes, des discussions absolument captivantes sur nos idées et nos politiques. On va participer à des séances de formation novatrices et nous allons concrétiser en tant que parti, en tant que mouvement, notre vision pour le Canada de demain. I've been attending Liberal conventions for about 20 years now, but never before with my little one and never before in my kitchen. So it's a first for all of us. Et à vrai dire, il n'a jamais été plus important qu'aujourd'hui de s'impliquer. Et nous vous sommes tellement reconnaissants d'être à nos côtés. Sur ce, Terry, mettons-nous à l'œuvre.
It is my honor to introduce you to Jean Samiliak, an elder from Nunavut, who will provide a traditional welcome for everyone. And after the welcome, we will all be treated to a group close to my home, the Vancouver Children's Choir, singing O Canada.
tulog na kami. Tulog na kami. Natamak ko atok tawa na ako. Iyan ilangin niya ngutit siyangin nama. Ang natwa ka ang ulang alo ako nga. Ang ngutit siyangin ito nga. Namna. Punyang nang nagilaring niluan na kapo. Siyan eh. Ato ba kayo tulaw matawag alo ako. Maniyang nagkatsakwing ito ay mga kamayla. Tamaw nga kaya, tapi bilukulo ananat siya ka. Ikuwalat si talawak itong galawak. Kaya tunno yaw galawak ito. Tunno. Tamat ko alo kaya koptit na akso ito noy. Katugaw talawak ito galawak.
Bonjour and greetings from Vancouver, BC. We acknowledge with respect that we are gathered here today on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam people, people of the Rivergrass, the Tsleil-Waututh, people of the Inlet, and the Squamish, Mother of the Wind. My name is Rupert Lang, and I am the director of the Vancouver Children's Choir. Under normal circumstances, we would have loved to have all my children singing today. But due to COVID protocol, we have been restricted to 10 singers. They represent singers from my junior level, my senior level, and alumni. It is truly an honor to have been invited to lead you in the singing of our national anthem. As you are able, please stand.
Thank you so much, Elder Jean Similiac, for opening up our weekend in such a moving way. The hoodlick that Jean is using is a traditional oil lamp used by Inuit that provides light and warmth. The lamp is made out of soapstone and is shaped in a half moon with a vessel to hold oil for burning. The lamp is traditionally used by women to take care of their families. It can be used for cooking, for drying wet clothes, melting ice, boiling water, providing light. It creates warmth and energy within the home. And of course, a huge thank you to the Vancouver Children's Choir for that absolutely magnificent rendition of O Canada. La pandémie de COVID-19 a eu des répercussions diverses sur chacun d'entre nous. Nous avons ce soir l'occasion de rendre hommage aux personnes qui sont en première ligne dans la lutte contre cette pandémie. D'innombrables Canadiens ont pris les devants dans un élan d'entraide et de solidarité pour assurer la sécurité de leur communauté, de leurs voisins et leurs voisines et de leurs proches. I would now like to invite everybody to please pause for a moment of silence to reflect on their selfless service, to remember the Canadians that we have lost to COVID-19, and to keep their families and loved ones forever in our thoughts.
Thank you. And I know this reflection and remembrance will continue as we stay focused on doing everything it takes, for as long as it takes, to keep Canadians safe, healthy, and supported. We also want to take a moment to remember another Canadian we lost this past year, who was a central figure of Liberal politics and Canadian public service for nearly half a century. As Justice Minister, Finance Minister, Liberal leader, Prime Minister, and as a committed citizen, John Turner dedicated his life to building a better Canada, to the values that make our democracy strong. I had the honor to meet him with Young Liberals in British Columbia, and he was so inspiring and full of energy. Let's take a moment to remember his life and his service.
John used to impress on every young person he engaged with that we all have the ability to do great things in this world if we make the choice to do so. John always found a way to give back to this country, whether serving as a member of Parliament in 3 different provinces or in cabinet. Même si John était un pilier de la Chambre des communes qui luttait constamment pour un monde plus juste, il restait profondément humain. John always noted that democracy doesn't happen by accident. He knew we could rise to any challenge and meet any moment if we believed in one another and stood together. John, vous êtes un grand Canadien. Votre vision d'un Canada plus fort et plus juste continue de se perpétuer. Reposez en paix.
Our condolences are with John's family and John's loved ones. As we take the time to pause and reflect on the challenges we faced together over the past year, it is also important to look ahead and to find moments of joy and of hope. We are fortunate to be able to have talented folks from all across our great country join us this evening to help us with some entertainment. These individuals are from all across Canada and will showcase the diverse tapestry that makes our country strong. Over the past year, many of the forms of entertainment we're used to have had to pivot to reach us in our homes in physically distanced ways. But tonight, the common experience of Canadian talent will keep us all together. The first extremely talented Canadian this evening is Jimmy Rankin. Canadian country and folk artist and member of the Rankin family, Jimmy Rankin has released 7 solo albums. His solo and band awards include 5 Junos, 27 East Coast Music Awards, 9 SOCAN Top Radio Play Awards, 7 Canadian Country Music Awards, and 2 Canadian Radio Music Awards. It is safe to say that we are all in for a treat this evening. Over to you, Jimmy.
Good evening, Liberals. My name is Jimmy Rankin, and I'm accompanied here by Jamie Robinson. And here's a few songs for you from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Stay safe and have a great evening. Moving on to Hawaii. I've been rambling round for such a long, long time. Somewhere in between, kinda lost my mind and I'm moving on. I'm going
sun. I'm a rolling stone, moving on. I'm a rolling stone, moving on. Moving, 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 rolling, moving, 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 moving on, yeah. Woo, baby. I wanna build this house from the ground up to the roof, and it won't be done till it's as beautiful as you. I'm gonna take my time and make sure it stands strong through every storm and every hurricane that might come along. We'll fill it with love, more than enough. Make everything better with every touch. Can't do it alone, 'cause baby, without you it's just wood and stone. I wanna build this house, we'll make it home. I'm gonna face the window south, I'll let the sun come in, shine down on your pretty face every morning. We'll fill it with love, more than enough. Make everything better with every touch. Can't do it alone, 'cause baby, without you it's just wood and stone. Wanna build this house, we'll make it home. I wanna build this house from the ground up to the roof, and it won't be done till it's as beautiful as you. We'll fill it with love, more than enough. Make everything better with every touch. Can't do it alone, 'cause baby, without you it's just wood and stone. And when it's done, we'll call it our own. Wanna build this house, you'll make it home.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for this entertainment. I hope some of you actually got up and danced, either if you were in your kitchen or in your living room. I know that I hummed a little bit of this song. Thank you so much. Merci, Jimmy, de mettre de l'ambiance dans notre partie, mettre de l'ambiance dans notre soirée, comme on sait le faire dans la côte ouest. Il est donc tout naturel pour moi d'inviter notre prochaine conférencière, elle aussi originaire de la Nouvelle-Écosse. j'ai le grand honneur de vous présenter notre prochaine invitée et la présidente du Parti libéral du Canada, Suzanne Cowan. Suzanne a été élue lors du congrès de 2018 dans sa propre ville, sa ville natale de Halifax. Auparavant, elle a été vice-présidente anglophone du parti de 2016 à 2018. Elle a servi le parti avec enthousiasme et dévouement depuis son élection au poste qui, comme elle se plaît à nous le rappeler, est celui de bénévole en chef. Alors, j'invite maintenant Suzanne, à toi la parole.
Merci, Mona. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un très grand honneur d'être ici avec vous tous. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 2021 National Convention. I'm thrilled to be here with you. There's so many things that we're going to hear about this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I do. Some of my fondest memories as a Liberal are going to Liberal conventions. And especially, as Mona was saying, a really special place in my heart when I was elected president of the party in my hometown of Halifax in 2018. So hi to everybody at home, and I hope you're all staying safe. Of course, we'd all want to be doing this in person if we could, but this convention is going to be like no other. This weekend is going to be something, you are going to be part of something that is truly special. This is the convention that we're going to always remember that took place at kitchen tables and dining room tables and living room tables in Chesterfields all across the country, where we came together in our homes to help shape Canada's future for the better, even when we were staying apart. Même que je ne peux pas vous voir, je sais que vous êtes là. Je le sais parce que c'est notre plus grand événement en ligne jamais organisé. Presque 5000 Canadiens qui se sont connectés. La décision de tenir notre congrès virtuellement était douce et amère en même temps. Mais on s'est rapidement rendu compte que l'opportunité fantastique et un nouveau défi que ça représente. Ce congrès est le plus accessible à le plus grand nombre de personnes parce que nous avons mis en ligne. Plus que 50% des participants ce soir sont ici pour la première fois. So if you're new to politics, new to the party, new to the movement, maybe you've been watching our leader, Justin Trudeau, and our Liberal team over the last year and wanted to see what was going on, welcome. I am very confident that this is not going to be the last time that we're going to see you. Bienvenue, et je suis confiante que ça ne sera pas la dernière fois qu'on vous voit. Others are joining us this weekend who are our longtime Liberal volunteers, who make our EDAs thrive. You are the engine that makes our ground game work, but maybe you haven't had the opportunity for any number of reasons to be able to attend a national convention before. So welcome to you too, and thank you for so much and everything that you do. And to you convention veterans like me who've never missed one, I'm not going to say exactly how many conventions I've been to, but it's a lot, and I've enjoyed every one. I've learned so much. I've made new friends and seen friends that I only see at conventions. So to all you convention veterans, thank you for taking the leap online with us this weekend. And to all the frontline workers who are with us today, thank you for everything you do, and thank you for being here with us. Et à tous les travailleurs de première ligne qui sont ici avec nous ce soir, merci d'être ici et merci pour tout ce que vous faites pour nous garder en sécurité. Et aussi, un merci spécial à les enseignants et enseignantes qui travaillent si fort. C'est ce qui me permet, comme tant d'autres, de participer dans ce congrès. Et tant que parti, nous essayons toujours d'innover de la façon qu'on communique avec les Canadiens. Et le congrès ne fait pas d'exception. Nous avons pris tout ce que nous avons appris pendant la pandémie pour mettre sur pied un programme qui est intéressant, engageant, amusant pour tout le monde pendant les prochaines journées. So I encourage you to check out as many of the trainings and sessions as you can. It's really going to be a fantastic weekend. play around on the app like I have been tonight and start booking all the things that you want to do. I want to also take a moment to thank our incredible, hardworking team at LPC who have been working tirelessly in an ever-changing and shifting environment to make sure that this convention could happen. I'm so proud of all your hard work. Merci pour tout votre travail acharné. And of course, I want to thank all of you for your support and the privilege to continue on as your president as we move forward in this next period of time. Thank you so much. This is a unique chance for us to hear leading voices in the party, to learn from our fellow organizers, to share strategies and tactics with EDAs from across the country, and hopefully make lots and lots of new friends. We don't know when the next election is going to be, but it's coming. And this convention is our chance to get ready. I'll talk more about that on Saturday afternoon about the road ahead. Je vous encourage donc tous de regarder ce qui se passera au Congrès. Il y a tellement de différentes choses à voir. Utilisez le hashtag libéral 21 sur les réseaux sociaux pour joindre la conversation. I really encourage you. I hope you have a wonderful time. This is going to be a unique experience that we will all remember for a very, very long time. So please join in the conversation at Lib21 with the hashtag on all your social feeds. Thank you. Thank you so much. Merci. And now, on with the show.
Thank you, Suzanne. You're always such a great motivation for our incredible volunteers. And if I do say so myself, you're an incredible volunteer too. And I really look forward to door knocking with you again, hopefully sometime soon. Our next entertainer is Remy Cassé, a finalist in the 2014 edition of The Voice. Remy has enjoyed 8 years of success with his band, Tailor Made Fable, with whom he recorded 3 albums, toured Quebec, the United States, and Europe. This talented performer has had 3 radio singles make it to the top of the charts. Ladies and gentlemen, Remy Cassé.
Salut tout le monde, ici Rémi Chassé. Ça me fait plaisir de faire partie de la convention 2021 du Parti libéral. Aujourd'hui, je vous présente une production qui a été enregistrée il y a à peine quelques semaines. Vous allez être le premier public à voir un extrait de cette captation-là qui a été faite à Montréal au Théâtre Corona avec toutes les règles de distanciation possibles. J'espère que vous allez apprécier ça. Ça me fait plaisir de vous le présenter, puis je vous souhaite une excellente convention. Ciao.
On prendra la chambre et le bar et la vue, on se perd le forfait. Celui d'abondance et de transe et d'abus, se prêter un instant au jeu, c'est beau quand c'est instable. Nous deux, on suivra seulement le tremblement et le soleil. Tu dormiras dans l'auto comme dans le sommeil. Je conduirai jusqu'à la porte de notre hôtel. On ira boire sur le toit parmi les gratte-ciels. Pourquoi pas s'enfuir ensemble, puis c'est prendre un petit l'évident qui partit la vie, sympathiser les vacances sur l'autre hémisphère. Profiter de la romance si c'est éphémère. Pourquoi se manquer, se plaindre et se mentir? Pourquoi pas s'enfuir? Ensemble on fait ses plans dans le pays, l'Orient qui est parti à la dérive. Synchroniser les vacances sur l'hémisphère, profiter de la romance si c'est éphémère. Pourquoi se manquer, se plaindre et se mentir? Pourquoi pas s'enfuir? Ensemble on fait ses plans dans le délire, l'Orient qui est parti à la dérive. Synchroniser les vacances sur notre hémisphère, profiter de la romance si c'est éphémère. Pourquoi se manquer, se plaindre et se mentir? Pourquoi pas s'enfuir? J'espérais trouver l'amour, j'ai trouvé l'indifférence. J'ai cherché les mots pour m'arracher à la souffrance. J'ai peine à croire que tu vas t'en aller sans rien me dire. À peine les regards, les clins d'œil, les fous rires. C'était quoi notre aventure? J'attendais comme un pantin accroché à un fil, comme si pour toi j'étais le dernier des imbéciles. Pendant que j'essayais de taire et d'écarter les doutes, de mener mon cœur et ma tête sur une fausse route. Mais c'était quoi notre aventure? C'était quoi notre aventure? J'attends pas de réponse. J'ai laissé tomber mon alliance au grand jour. Une torture tour, et tant qu'il m'en s'enfonce, se laisse oublier les erreurs de parcours, les belles fous d'espoir. Partout autour, on prendra soin de souffler sur les ondes. Êtes-vous encore ensemble? À quoi peut-on s'attendre? J'ai pas de nouvelles non plus, mais plus ça va, moins j'en veux. J'ai trop d'orgueil pour être un éternel amoureux. Tant de messages sans retour, tant de peine et de détours. Je tasse les songes qui plaisent et qui rongent mon ego. Je passe l'éponge, j'efface les paradis. Pourquoi les mensonges, les mirages et les esquives? Pourquoi le début, le silence et la dérive? J'attends pas de réponse. J'ai laissé tomber mon alliance au grand jour. Une torture autour, et tant qu'il m'en s'enfonce, je laisse oublier les erreurs de parcours, les belles et fous espoirs. Sans adieu ni au revoir. Pourquoi les mensonges et les mirages et les esquives? Pourquoi le vérité, le silence et la dérive? J'attends pas de réponse. J'attends pas de réponse. Pourquoi les mensonges et les mirages et les esquives? Pourquoi le vérité, le silence et la dérive? J'attends pas de réponse. J'ai laissé tomber mon alliance au grand jour. Elle me torturait trop, tranquillement s'enfonce, se laisse oublier les erreurs de parcours, ce laborieux détour. J'attends pas de réponse. J'ai laissé tomber mon alliance au grand jour. Une torture pour tranquillement s'enfonce, et laisse enterrer les erreurs de parcours, les belles et les faux espoirs.
Wow, Rémi, ça, c'est de la voix incroyable. Je suis vraiment, vraiment impressionnée. Merci beaucoup, Rémi. C'était super. Et nous sommes tellement reconnaissants parce que, en tout cas, je parle pour moi-même, mais ça me manque tellement les spectacles, les concerts. Et je crois que c'est le cas pour tout le monde. Notre communauté culturelle et artistique nous manque tellement, surtout ici au Québec, où nous sommes si fiers de nos artistes et notre milieu culturel. Et maintenant, c'est quand même tout un plaisir pour moi ce soir de pouvoir présenter notre premier conférencier principal qui va nous parler de soutenir les Canadiens et de leur offrir une chance réelle et équitable de réussir. C'est un homme qui a consacré sa carrière à aider les autres et qui cherche à bâtir des villes, des provinces et un pays meilleur pour tous. Il est avocat, père de famille, époux, et il est aussi le premier Canadien d'origine somalienne à être devenu ministre fédéral. Alors, permettez-moi de parler un instant de plus sur l'importance du sujet dont Ahmed va traiter aujourd'hui. Ahmed, who is, as many of you know, a former lawyer, is also the first federal cabinet minister of Somalian origin, and he has experienced himself what it's like to start a new life in a new country here in Canada. As Minister of Immigration, he served our country so very well, and now he is working very hard on issues such as affordable housing and supporting our families, which we know has been absolutely critical over the course of this last year. I think, Terry, you know, out in British Columbia, you have a similar experience to us here in Quebec. A lot of people have been speaking to me about the importance of affordable housing. People are seeing the housing market increase considerably here in Montreal. I imagine it's the same out in Burnaby. I think that's an issue that we certainly need to discuss during this convention. And I know that we have several really interesting proposals of policies and discussions where we will touch on this.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rachel. And I'm really excited about the themes that we're talking about during this convention, because I think they really reflect the themes that we're hearing in our constituency offices right across the country, whether it's keeping Canadians healthy, keeping Canadians safe, making sure that the economy comes roaring back once we get past this pandemic, of course, protecting the environment and fighting climate change. And of course, through all of this, making sure that we're creating a more fair and more equitable society. And of course, access to housing, especially affordable housing, is a big part of that. And I can tell you, I'm really excited to hear Ahmed's presentation tonight, because you know, I call Ahmed on behalf of my constituents day and night all the time. So I know how hard he works. Hopefully he's going to be here with us soon.
Absolutely. I'm gonna do a shameless plug. There are a number of us caucus members, but also commissions and riding associations that put forward a resolution on a basic income here in Canada. So we'll have the opportunity to also discuss a version of UBI that might be part of a future platform. Something that I am certainly very excited about, and something that I do hear often from my constituents. Et je pense qu'il faut toujours retourner à notre base, retourner à ce que nos membres, à ce que les Canadiens d'un coin à l'autre du pays nous disent. Et comme tu l'as si bien remarqué, Terry, souvent, surtout cette dernière année, nous avons beaucoup entendu parler de l'importance de soutenir les familles. Et...
Oh, sorry, Rachel, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, I think what we're going to do is I think either Ahmed is right here, or we're going to go to our next entertainer.
No, I'm here.
Ahmed. But if Ahmed is here, we'll go straight to Ahmed.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Terry. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Marci. How's everyone?
We're doing great, and the floor is yours.
Okay, fantastic. No, this is so good. I'm really, really glad to join all of you. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. And I'm joining you from Toronto, on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. And a lot has really changed since the last time we saw each other. But I'm really, really glad we're finding a way to be together virtually. Here in Ontario, we are in another lockdown. And I know it's tough. We're missing birthdays and anniversaries and weddings and funerals. But all kinds of religious ceremonies, from Vaisakhi to Easter to Nowruz to Passover, and so many other occasions. For me as a Muslim, Ramadan is coming. And it will be another Ramadan away from gatherings with family and friends for iftar. I want us to take a moment to really remember the lives lost during the pandemic, many of them from our own liberal family or their loved ones. And we're thinking of all of those people tonight, and we honor them. And as we're all starting to or waiting to get vaccinated, we have to continue to stay apart and follow all the health guidelines. And by working together, we know we can get through this. Many of you know that at the age of 16, I came to Canada as a refugee. And to survive and thrive, I relied on many community services, such as social housing and the food bank. I worked minimum wage jobs to just get by. And for my first winter jacket, for example, I arrived in the so-called winter of the century. My high school running team and the coach put together some money to buy me my first winter jacket. That really made me feel at home as this new kid in a new place in the cold for the first time. So it is that sense of community, of being together, of being there for each other when times get tough, that makes me so, so proud to be Canadian, and so, so proud to be a liberal and to be your neighbor. That we all believe that no one should be left behind. That is who we want ourselves and our country to be, ultimately, as liberals. And so in 2015, I ran as the Liberal candidate in York Southwestern. Why? Because I ran to preserve and protect and hopefully expand the same community services and social services that I and many, many others relied on to survive and thrive. Because at the time, if you remember, there were cuts and many cuts that were being made by Conservatives. The Conservative government of the time had abandoned Canada's leadership role in housing. They had cut supports for organizations serving the most vulnerable members of our community. And thankfully, under the leadership of Justin Trudeau and the hope and hard work of so many Liberals, so many of you, Canadians chose us to have their backs in 2015. And when we formed government, we got to work right away. And we chose to work hard to invest in people and in communities. We introduced a middle-class tax cut to give the middle-class families a break when they hadn't had a break for 9 years under Stephen Harper and the Conservatives. We introduced the Canada Child Benefit that has helped so many families. We took immediate action to tackle poverty. We created jobs for the future. We believed and continue to believe that investments over cuts was the way to go to building our communities, that helping those most in need was the way to lift all of us up, that having your backs should be the Liberal team's main priority. And as elected MPs, we hear firsthand the stories and challenges of people and the role that government can have in their lives. And I know far too well the benefit and the impact of what we do and how that matters to people and communities. And we know that there's still more work to be done. And so in October 2019, Canadians again chose to have the Liberal team represent their hopes and dreams. And then COVID-19 hit. The pandemic has shown us the fault lines in our society, those who are disproportionately affected by the pandemic, populations like women, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, those experiencing homelessness, vulnerable seniors. It was crucial that we did all that we could to help all Canadians get through this together, to support them and to make sure that we do the most that we can so that no one is left behind. Because that's what Liberals do. So the question I have for all of you is, when was the moment and how did you feel when the pandemic was announced? Many Canadian lives were changed and they looked to all orders of government to be there for them. And we were there for Canadians, whether it was introducing the CERB, something that became a game changer and a literal lifeline for so many Canadians, a wage subsidy, and other supports for businesses, raising the amount of the Canada Child Benefit, and giving a one-time top-up to families with children. And, I always ask this question: what would we have seen if Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives were in power when the pandemic hit? I've always been proud to be a Liberal, but I've never been more proud than I am now, because I've seen how our team has and continues to respond to the existing challenges faced by Canadians, challenges that have been made worse by the pandemic. Simply put, we have the backs of Canadians. And I'm definitely proud that it was our team that was in a position to help people. When we talk about a fair Canada, that's what we're talking about. I believe the best way to respond to the needs of Canadians is to listen to them with humility. We know that we don't have all the answers in Ottawa. Communities, if you ask them, know what they need. I want to really also take an opportunity to share with you the story of Diane in my riding of York Southwestern. She runs the local food bank. And she told me about how the number of individuals using the food bank went from 400 people in 2019 to over 2,000 people in 2020. I know this struggle personally, as I remember having to stretch the little food that I had in high school and university while having a job. And I realized very quickly, as a member of parliament, as a minister, that the pandemic would affect access to food for so many Canadians. And I'm so proud that our Liberal government responded to this increased demand by providing over $200 million to food banks and community food programs. We're there for families and children at this difficult time. Last year, we brought in a one-time increase in the Canada Child Benefit early during the pandemic to help families meet the extra costs of this pandemic. And then in July, we increased the Canada Child Benefit permanently to help families be able to provide food and clothing for their children. As Liberals, we know that the Canada Child Benefit is the most progressive and impactful social policy in the last number of decades. We moved really quickly to shore up support for organizations that are helping the most vulnerable Canadians and that are being asked to do even more now. By using money from the Emergency Community Support Fund, for example, the Milton Community Resource Centre in Milton, Ontario, was able to provide more help for more families to access diapers, formula, baby food, and cereal. The Atira Women's Resource Society in Surrey, British Columbia, was able to reach more women experiencing homelessness because of the Emergency Community Support Fund. They were able to provide these women with food, with harm reduction supplies, and with housing solutions. Et le Fonds de soutien communautaire d'urgence a permis à l'Association des centres d'écoute téléphonique du Québec d'offrir une formation améliorée aux nouveaux bénévoles et de répondre aux appels des personnes souffrant de problèmes de santé mentale, de toxicomanie ou d'isolement à la suite de la pandémie de COVID-19. And Women of First Light, led by Indigenous women in Nova Scotia, you know what they did? They used our Emergency Community Support Fund to purchase new thermal greenhouses to be able to grow food in the winter, purchase equipment for preserving food and distributing fresh vegetables and canned goods to community members in need, including elders and single parents. And as we've encouraged everyone to stay at home, our homes have literally become places of refuge and shelter. But it is impossible to shelter at home when you do not have a home. And so, as Liberals, we introduced the Rapid Housing Initiative, our response to housing the most vulnerable members of our society, those who've been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Women, Black, Indigenous, and racialized Canadians, vulnerable seniors. As Liberals, we always have ambitious targets. We aim to create over 3,000 affordable housing units through the Rapid Housing Initiative. But because Canadians stepped up, because of the dynamic work of all our partners across the country, we will build over 4,700 new and permanent affordable housing units. That's what happens when liberal governments lead. Let us keep building not shelters, but homes. When the pandemic started, I consulted with Canadians across the country. And time again, it didn't matter which group that I was meeting, whether it was a business group, women's organizations, nonprofits, labor unions, it didn't matter, or mothers. The topic of early learning and childcare would come up time and time again, which is why we provided just last year an additional $625 million to make sure that this sector got COVID relief so that it survives and actually emerges stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic. And we as liberals understand, we get it, that Canadian families look at childcare not as a necessity. They don't look at childcare as a luxury, but as a necessity. We believe every child in Canada, no matter their household income, no matter what part of Canada that they're born in, deserve having access to affordable childcare that gives them an opportunity to have high quality early learning and childcare, which is accessible and inclusive. We have to make sure that we have inclusive childcare in this country. That is why we're determined to introduce, as mentioned by our leader, Justin Trudeau, a Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare, and to make the long-term sustained investments necessary to make this happen. We simply owe this to Canadian women who are now, Canadian women with children who are now unfairly held back from the workforce because of a lack of access to affordable childcare. And we also owe it to our kids so that we can give them the best possible start in life. What I've heard from Canadians across the country is that there is no economic recovery without investments in early learning and childcare. And we Liberals get that. Time and again, we are there for Canadians throughout all the struggles that they face. But throughout COVID, many have also said that we're in this together. The truth is, and what has also become clear is, that sometimes we're not in this together. The lived reality for so many Canadians is different from all the other Canadians. We often speak about the struggle of inclusivity. Over the years, the Liberal team has spoken about what an inclusive Canada means for all of us. And then last summer, we all watched in horror as George Floyd lost his life in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And his life was ended by a white police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Here at home, Black Canadians paid closer attention to this, knowing the reality of systemic racism and the daily discrimination and implicit bias that they encounter. Young Black Canadian boys and men are often profiled by law enforcement, and Black Muslim women are targeted for their looks or their religious clothing. Let's not forget that Canada is where the Proud Boys got started. We're home to the soldiers of Odin, and not too many weeks passed by without a racist incident in the news. And we started to hear more and more about the stories of Canadians facing similar experiences. We've seen this most recently with the targeting of Asian Canadians. I want to let all Asian Canadians across the country know that we stand with you. Our leader, Justin Trudeau, our party, our team will always, always stand against racism and stand strongly for inclusion. Acknowledging systemic racism is not just the job of those who are affected by it. It's the job of leaders, which is why I've been working really hard with my colleagues to do exactly that and to make sure that our representation leads to concrete action. And I truly believe that it has. Canada recently signed the UN Decade for People of African Descent. Our government has invested in mental health for Black Canadians and in youth programs. Our investments will literally renew and preserve Harriet Tubman's former church in St. Catharines, Ontario. We launched Canada's first ever Black entrepreneurship program so that Black entrepreneurs can survive the COVID-19 pandemic and thrive after the pandemic. Through our anti-racism strategy, we as Liberals will continue to address anti-Black racism and systemic inequalities across Canada. We've made concrete reforms, for example, to our criminal justice system. But that's not all that there is to do. And sometimes we will fall short, but we have to continue to try because the alternative, which is to do nothing, is simply unacceptable. we are on a path towards not just progress, my friends, but real change. And I really want to thank our leader, Justin Trudeau, for having the courage to pursue that vision of not only acknowledging the diversity of Canada, but actually fighting for a more inclusive Canada. Because as Liberals, we know that diversity is a fact in Canada, but inclusion is a choice. And as Liberals, we make the choice for inclusion. A fight for a more inclusive Canada is the same fight that the Liberal family has always stood for, which is a fair Canada. And a fair Canada is ultimately about Canadians. We have supported Canadians throughout this pandemic, but it is truly the strength of Canadians that has gotten us this far. I've seen so many people who are volunteers, who are donating to their community, who are helping each other out, helping their neighbors, helping the most vulnerable. Canadians have supported their families and even strangers throughout this difficult time. The essential workers have gone above and beyond to make sure that Canadians are supported. In my own riding of York Southwestern, I have met healthcare workers who are volunteering after their working hours and on weekends to vaccinate as many people as possible. These frontline medical staff have become our real-life superheroes by doing everything that they can to keep us safe and fight the COVID-19 virus. Our own example, MP Kamal Kara, who's a nurse, volunteered on the front lines in the fight against COVID-19 early in the pandemic. She unfortunately contracted COVID. She made a full recovery and is now back helping more Canadians get vaccinated. The story of Canada really during COVID is the story of Canadians having each other's backs. And that is the example that the Liberal team under Justin Trudeau has worked so hard for. When a small business needed help, or when a family was unsure about paying their rent or feeding their kids, we had their back. When it was a student not having enough to pay for their tuition, Liberals had their back. When it was a nonprofit organization needing support to pay their staff or serve more vulnerable Canadians, Liberals had their back. When it was fighting every day to keep COVID away from Indigenous communities and protecting the most vulnerable, including our homeless populations, we were there and we had their back. Each and every time we saw Canadians needing help, we have stepped up. And at the same time, we recognize that there's more to do. So my question to you again is, who do you trust to have your back? And our work is not over. Together, we will get through this. I know that. I know that together with your help and your support, your advocacy, your policies, your enthusiasm, your hard work, your feedback, your phone call canvassing, and most importantly, your leadership, we can ensure that the Liberal team continues to serve and have the backs of all Canadians through this pandemic and beyond. Together, I know, friends, we will build back better. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde.
Well, thank you, Ahmed, for that incredibly powerful presentation. I think it was powerful because you so accurately summed up the conversations that we've been having in caucus. You've so accurately summed up the conversations that Canadians have been having right across this country. And to have that reflection that we're continuing to deliver on that promise of real change, and not just doing it through a pandemic, but accelerating it through a pandemic. I think it's worth repeating what I said to our audience before you came on. I know how hard you work because, I'm calling you all hours of the night to try and deliver for my constituents. And I know that you're doing that all across the country. And I know why you call me back, because we can see the passion in the presentation that you just gave. So thank you very much. Our next entertainer is also from Ontario. Elise Legros' first release, No Good Woman, was the most added single on adult contemporary radio in Canada when it first came out and remained in the top 10 for 13 weeks. After being signed to a record label in 2009, after a performance at the North by Northeast Festival, her success has continued to grow. We are thrilled to have her perform for us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Elise Legros.
Good evening, Liberals. I'm Elise Legros, and I'm broadcasting today from my living room in downtown Toronto. Today, I'll be previewing some songs from my forthcoming album. This first one is called Grateful. risky. I never claimed to be perfect, and I pray time don't hold that against me. Who said I deserve the beauty that I see every morning? And every long dark night gives me reason to be thankful. I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. Could have been gone. Can't say that I was never wrong, but that makes me grateful. Grateful. I've done some things that are risky. I never said I was a role model. Had some nights I drank the whole bottle in past lives, but last night it hit me. I simply beautiful it is to breathe. All the beauty that's in you and me, and that made me thankful. I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. Oh, I know that I could have been gone. Can't say that I was never wrong, but that makes me grateful. Grateful for every memory that came and went, for every failure, every accident, for every moment that I get to spend, for every day I get, I'm glad to live. 'Cause who knows how the story ends? We know that it's gonna end. That gives me faith, though. I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. Oh, I never said I was great, but I'm grateful. Oh, grateful. I know that I could have been gone. Can't say that I was never wrong, but that makes me grateful. Grateful. And that makes me grateful. This next one's called Holiday. I ain't taking this lightly. I'm not doing all right. So I'm saving my psyche. Yeah, I'm leaving tonight. Got a ticket in my hand, my own wonderland out of sight. Ooh, on a mission in command, my own weatherman, making my own clear skies. I'm running away, on holiday. Ooh, I'm running away, so don't call me 'cause I'm calling it a holiday. Going on a vacation, don't know when I'm coming home. An unknown destination for my body and soul. Got a ticket in my hand, my own wonderland out of sight. Ooh, on a mission in command, my own weatherman, making my own clear skies. I'm running away, on holiday. Ooh,
my time. Gonna get what's mine, get what's mine. Gonna do it my way, 'cause it's my holiday. I'm running away on holiday. Oh, I'm running away. So don't call me 'cause I'm calling it a holiday. Got no baggage to haul 'cause I'm all that I need. If you're trying to call, my apology. I'm running away. So don't call me 'cause I'm calling it a holiday. Got the sun in the sea, that's all that I need. Baby, sun in the sea, got me feeling so free. I'm running away. So don't call me 'cause I'm calling it a holiday.
Thank you and good night.
Wow, merci beaucoup, Elise. C'était absolument magnifique. Et maintenant, notre deuxième star québécoise de la soirée, notre prochain conférencier principal de ce soir est connu à travers le Canada pour son activisme environnemental de longue date. En fait, tout a commencé quand il avait 5 ans et qu'il habitait dans sa ville natale de La Tuque, en Haute-Mauricie, lorsqu'il refusa de descendre de l'arbre qu'il avait grimpé dans le but d'empêcher un promoteur immobilier de couper une zone boisée située à l'arrière de sa maison. Il est l'un des membres fondateurs d'Équiterre, un organisme québécois de défense de l'environnement, et pendant 10 ans, il était aussi le directeur général et le gestionnaire de campagne du bureau de Greenpeace au Québec. En 2019, il a été élu député dans Laurier-Sainte-Marie, mon comté voisin. Je suis donc très heureuse de vous présenter nul autre que Stephen Guilbeault.
Merci beaucoup, Rachel, très chère voisine. Merci pour cette généreuse introduction. Bonsoir tout le monde. C'est très déstabilisant d'être tout seul devant mon ordinateur à cette minute précise. J'aurais envie de crier « Bonsoir tout le monde » dans une belle dynamique d'équipe en personne, comme on l'a souvent connu, mais j'aurais l'air un peu fou tout seul dans mon salon. J'aurais aussi envie de vous rencontrer, de vous serrer la pince, mais ça devra attendre et on devrait être encore un peu patient. L'important, c'est qu'on soit là autour de notre engagement. Je profite de mon micro pour envoyer mes pensées sincères à ceux et celles qui ont été plus durement touchés par cette terrible pandémie. Les deuils sont des épreuves marquantes de nos vies et devoir les vivre à travers la distanciation physique et sociale est terriblement éprouvant. Mais aujourd'hui, plus que jamais, il faut regarder autour de nous. Nous sommes des milliers à être en ligne et à donner à cet instant l'importance qu'il mérite. Je vois des collègues, des amis et des militants et militantes. Ce sont des gens que j'ai appris à connaître autrement, mais qui ont travaillé comme jamais depuis un peu plus d'1 an pour plonger tête première dans l'action, pour être à l'écoute des besoins de nos voisins, nos concitoyens et concitoyennes et de la population. Nous avons mobilisé des forces et des ressources qui nous étaient parfois inconnues. Nous avons travaillé des heures souvent indécentes dans une course contre la montre pour mettre en place un filet de sécurité destiné aux plus vulnérables parmi nous. Je tiens à féliciter le travail incroyable de mes collègues qui ont permis à des millions de Canadiennes et Canadiens de garder la tête hors de l'eau. C'est dans un esprit de communauté que nous avons réussi à mettre en place des programmes ambitieux pour accompagner les gens frappés de plein fouet par la COVID. Et si on commence à voir la lumière au bout du tunnel, il ne faut pas lâcher. Il reste les derniers 1000 à parcourir, comme ceux d'un marathon. Bien que ce soit mon premier congrès comme élu du Parti libéral du Canada, ce n'est pas la première fois que je m'adresse à vous dans ce forum, puisque vous m'aviez invité en 2016 à m'adresser à vous alors que j'étais militant écologiste. C'est d'ailleurs le bilan du gouvernement de 2015 à 2019 en matière d'environnement et de changement climatique qui m'a amené à me présenter aux dernières élections, alors que je refusais des offres d'à peu près tous les partis, sauf le Parti conservateur, bien sûr, depuis à peu près 2 décennies. J'aimerais souligner avec vous quelques éléments de ce bilan-là. alors qu'une succession de gouvernements fédéraux n'avait protégé que 2% de nos espaces marins entre le sommet de la Terre de Rio en 92 et 2015, cette protection est passée à plus de 14% entre 2015 et 2019, et notre objectif est maintenant de doubler ces superficies d'ici 2030. La mise en place du prix sur la pollution, une première au niveau fédéral, et en l'espace de 4 ans, notre prix est devenu aussi ambitieux, sinon plus, que ceux du Québec, de la Colombie-Britannique et même de la Californie et de l'Union européenne. Il y a eu des investissements records dans l'électrification des transports. Vous savez, comme militant écologiste, j'ai longtemps rêvé d'un gouvernement fédéral qui serait un partenaire des provinces et des municipalités dans le développement des transports collectifs. Mais hélas, pendant des décennies, le Canada n'a eu aucune stratégie sur cette question fondamentale. Tout ça a changé avec le gouvernement de Justin Trudeau. Aujourd'hui, les investissements en transport collectif et actif dépassent 13 milliards de dollars et supportent le développement de plus de 1000 projets à travers le pays, dont l'expansion du métro à Toronto, la phase 1 du REM à Montréal, le projet de tramway à Québec, projet de train électrique à Gatineau et plusieurs autres. C'est donc fort de ce bilan que j'ai pris la décision de me présenter dans la très belle circonscription de Laurier-Sainte-Marie, où j'habite depuis 20 ans. Une circonscription qui n'avait pas été libérale depuis 30 ans. Et après une campagne extraordinaire avec des bénévoles tout aussi incroyables, j'ai réussi le pari de me faire élire. Et c'est par la suite que le premier ministre m'a fait l'immense honneur de me nommer ministre du patrimoine canadien. C'est peut-être pas là où certains et certaines s'attendaient à me voir. Et des critiques se sont même demandé qu'est-ce que Stephen Guilbeault connaît à l'art, à la culture ou aux médias. Mais passé cette surprise initiale, alors que je commençais à rencontrer les artistes un peu partout au pays, il me disait être tellement content d'avoir un militant écologiste comme ministre du patrimoine. Peut-être parce qu'ils me communiquaient leurs espoirs de me voir militer pour le secteur des arts, de la culture et du sport, comme je l'ai fait pour l'environnement et les changements climatiques. Je pense qu'ils me communiquaient aussi leur grand besoin d'aide au secteur pour faire mieux en matière environnementale, ainsi que l'envie des artistes à faire partie de la solution. D'autant plus que les artistes et leurs œuvres permettent de toucher les êtres, de faire réfléchir et de nourrir les changements sociaux. Peut-être une chose que les artistes et les écologistes partagent ensemble. Nous sommes, dans le sens le plus noble du terme, des rêveurs, des gens qui imaginons le monde autrement. Et le premier ministre m'a demandé d'être une voix forte sur la question des changements climatiques autour de la table. Et c'est ce que j'ai fait. Ce sont des enjeux transversaux qui touchent tous les ministères et tous les ministres, comme les questions autochtones, l'inclusion et la lutte au racisme. On a la chance de travailler en équipe et de tirer vers le haut ensemble. En parlant de questions autochtones, je suis également responsable de la mise en œuvre de la loi sur les langues autochtones. Et c'est à ce titre que j'ai déposé mon premier projet de loi à l'automne dernier pour instaurer la Journée nationale de vérité et réconciliation et s'assurer que la tragique histoire et les séquelles des pensionnats ne tombent jamais dans l'oubli. Le racisme systémique et les abus n'ont pas pris de congé avec la pandémie, bien au contraire. Le reconnaître est un premier pas. Comprendre que c'est un enjeu qui nous concerne toutes et tous, ainsi que l'ensemble de nos institutions, est essentiel pour le contrer. À Patrimoine canadien, nous aidons les gens à raconter leurs propres histoires et à utiliser leur propre voix pour le faire. Lutter contre le racisme passe inévitablement par une représentation plus juste à l'écran, mais aussi en ligne et dans les médias. Les jeunes Canadiens et Canadiennes racisés et autochtones ont besoin de se voir représentés à l'écran dans toute leur complexité. Leurs réussites, comme leurs défis et leurs expériences, doivent être connus et bénéficier d'un espace équitable pour s'exprimer. Et cette vision s'est retrouvée dans la modernisation de la loi sur la radiodiffusion, un des projets de loi que j'ai déposé et qui s'adresse aux géants du Web pour un cadre réglementaire numérique plus équitable. Effectivement, il s'agit là d'un des grands enjeux auxquels notre gouvernement s'est attaqué, soit celui de réglementer les géants du Web. Notre gouvernement a une stratégie en plusieurs volets qui incorpore ainsi la taxation et la protection des données privées, mais je me concentrerai sur les 3 volets qui relèvent du patrimoine canadien. Celui de la culture, pour que les plateformes financent les histoires et la musique d'ici. le discours haineux et les contenus illégaux en ligne, et la compensation équitable des médias pour l'utilisation de leur contenu par les plateformes. Sur le volet culturel, j'ai déposé le projet de loi C10, qui, lorsqu'adopté, forcera les géants du web comme Netflix, Amazon Prime, Spotify ou encore Apple Music à faire leur juste part en matière d'investissement dans le contenu culturel canadien et québécois, au même titre que le font, depuis des décennies, les diffuseurs canadiens. Pour nous, il s'agit d'une question d'équité. Ceux qui bénéficient de la création et des histoires canadiennes, qu'elles soient francophones, anglophones ou autochtones, doivent aussi y contribuer pour que nos histoires soient mises de l'avant, suggérées et mises en valeur afin qu'on les découvre. Ce sont ces histoires qui nous permettent de nous reconnaître et de mieux nous connaître pour dépasser nos différences et mieux comprendre nos réalités différentes. Le dépôt de ce projet de loi a été salué par de nombreux acteurs du secteur des arts et de la culture, certains le décrivant même comme historique. J'ai bon espoir qu'il pourra être adopté au cours des prochains mois. Je déposerai également au cours des prochaines semaines un autre projet de loi visant celui-là à combattre la haine en ligne et autres contenus illégaux. Je sais que nous sommes nombreux partout au pays à en être témoins tous les jours quand on ne le subit pas directement. Les chiffres parlent d'eux-mêmes. Une enquête mondiale menée auprès de 14 000 filles âgées de 15 à 25 ans dans 22 pays, dont le Canada, montre que plus de la moitié, en fait 58 %, ont déjà été victimes d'abus ou de harcèlement en ligne. Au Canada, les chiffres sont encore plus élevés, alors que cette proportion augmente à 62 %. Racialized groups are also 3 times more likely to be exposed or targeted by violence on social media. This exposure can potentially result in hate crimes, which have gone up 7% this year across the country. 78% of Canadians are concerned about the spread of hate speech online, and another 74% are concerned about the rise of right-wing extremism and terrorism. 80% of Canadians support requiring social media companies to remove racist or hateful content within 24 hours. Et puis, il y a nos médias, que la pandémie n'a pas ménagé. Notre gouvernement a été clair. Le travail des journalistes n'est pas gratuit et doit être adéquatement rémunéré. Le journalisme local, les médias communautaires et l'ensemble du secteur sont confrontés à des pressions financières immenses qui ont été exacerbées par la pandémie. Et là encore, les géants du web que sont Google et Facebook devront faire leur part pour compenser équitablement les médias pour l'utilisation qu'ils font du contenu médiatique canadien. Je mentionnais plutôt que mon passé de militant pourrait me servir. Eh bien, il me sert face à des compagnies puissantes, tout comme j'ai fait face à des compagnies qui ne voulaient pas de réglementation environnementale. Mais il me sert aussi à construire des ponts, que ce soit avec d'autres pays, d'autres partis, d'autres organisations ou encore des entreprises. L'union fait la force. Et nous ne sommes peut-être pas les premiers à agir sur ces questions, mais nous sommes certainement parmi les premiers et nous sommes les seuls à présenter 3 projets de loi sur la question des géants du web la même année. Je vais me permettre d'ailleurs de faire une petite suggestion de lecture, ministre du Patrimoine oblige, et vous inviter à lire le récit de notre bataille diplomatique avec différents pays pour réglementer les géants du web dans l'édition du mois de mai du magazine L'Actualité. Le reportage est une belle plongée avec mon équipe et nos partenaires internationaux pour raconter les coulisses de notre travail qui pourrait passionner plusieurs mordus politiques que vous êtes. L'article décrit bien la stratégie de notre gouvernement, mais également comment, à l'initiative du Canada, une coalition de pays travaille maintenant de concert pour faire face à ces mastodontes. Parmi eux, on retrouve notamment la France, l'Allemagne et l'Australie. Pour en venir à notre capacité d'agir sur plusieurs fronts, à la fois en tant qu'individu, ministre, équipe ou communauté, si la pandémie nous a prouvé une chose, c'est qu'il est possible de faire front commun contre une crise, à tous les niveaux de gouvernance. Chacun à sa hauteur, on peut renverser la tendance et limiter les pires risques posés par les changements climatiques. C'est d'ailleurs ce qui m'a amené aux côtés du premier ministre et des ministres McKenna et Wilkinson pour l'annonce en décembre dernier du nouveau plan fédéral de lutte au changement climatique. Un plan que mes anciens collègues de Greenpeace ont qualifié d'ambitieux. Et pour ceux et celles qui connaissent bien l'organisation, c'est pas parce que j'y ai travaillé pendant 10 ans qu'ils ont tendance à me faire des cadeaux. Ce plan est l'un des plus détaillés au monde et a été salué par de nombreux intervenants. It's no secret that I joined this team because I strongly believe that we need to do more to address climate change. It's a team effort, and this vision is fully shared by you and all of my colleagues, who are just as concerned about the issue as I am, and who are as motivated and as determined to act. It is nice to be part of a group that not only does not question the reality of climate change, but also keeps pushing the envelope to do more, even faster. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes nous ont élus avec une vraie préoccupation pour l'urgence climatique, notamment les gens de mon comté que je salue ce soir, certains que vous êtes nombreux au poste. Comme nous écoutons la science pour lutter contre la pandémie de COVID-19, nous écoutons la science pour lutter contre les changements climatiques. Comme nous luttons ensemble contre la pandémie, nous lutterons ensemble contre les changements climatiques. Chacun à notre niveau, de notre cellule familiale en passant par nos communautés, les entreprises et jusqu'aux accords entre différents pays. We will do this by building on our strength and, most importantly, by making a place for everyone in this transition. From transportation to housing, energy to industry, we are listening to science to avoid the worst risks caused by this global crisis. Les changements climatiques sont la plus grande menace pour notre santé, notre société et notre économie, mais il s'agit aussi d'une très grande opportunité. Ce plan que nous avons annoncé en décembre permettra de contribuer à la création d'1 million d'emplois à venir, solides et durables partout au Canada. En parlant d'avenir, j'entends certains parler de l'ampleur de la dette et de l'enjeu de la dette, mais on ne parle pas assez souvent de la dette écologique. Les coûts de l'inaction face au changement climatique sont immenses et on lègue ces coûts à nos enfants et nos petits-enfants, sans parler des coûts inestimables reliés à la perte de biodiversité et à la santé qui n'ont simplement pas de prix. C'est ce qui nous différencie de nos adversaires, cette volonté politique indispensable à toute action d'envergure et notre capacité à nous ajuster, comme durant la pandémie, à reconnaître nos angles morts et à nous améliorer pour faire mieux, jour après jour. After an exceptionally difficult year, we are doing what is necessary to take care of our planet and ourselves. We are doing what is needed to move forward in the energy transition and to make our communities more resilient and our economies more equitable. Avant de vous laisser, j'aimerais vous raconter une petite histoire. Il y a quelques années, j'ai pu collaborer avec la Nation CRI sur la question des changements climatiques. Et en reconnaissance de cette collaboration, le chef du Grand Conseil des CRI de l'époque, Mathieu Kumkom, m'a remis en cadeau une paire de raquettes en me disant, dans l'espoir que nous puissions continuer de les utiliser. Ces raquettes, elles sont maintenant dans mon bureau à Ottawa et je suis fier que nous ayons franchi un pas de géant pour atteindre cet objectif. Mais la randonnée n'est pas terminée. Pour conclure, permettez-moi de revenir sur le reportage du magazine L'Actualité qui portait le titre poétique de la fin de la récréation pour les géants du web et dont la conclusion se lit à peu près comme suit. Peut-être est-il finalement remarquable qu'il n'ait fallu que 15 ans pour qu'émerge une coalition de pays visant à mieux réglementer l'industrie numérique. Et peut-être n'est-il pas si surprenant que le ministre à la tête de ce chantier soit un ancien militant écologiste. Over the next 2 days, we will be exchanging ideas, listening to our Liberal family from across the country, discussing policy directions important to our communities and to our country, and to learn and grow from each other. Have a great convention, everyone. Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir.
Thank you, Stephen, for your inspiring remarks tonight and for all of your hard work with our team. You might not have noticed, but I was making a call when Rachel was introducing you, and I got a lot of text messages because a lot of people noticed me making that call, and they thought, well, maybe it's the Prime Minister giving me some tips on how to be a better convention co-host. So a little behind the scenes, my entire studio in my office here in my house is made up of 3 wonderful women. My wife, Ravi, my 60-day-old daughter Solar, and my 2.5-year-old Nova. And there was some loud sounds coming from the other room. So I was checking in and making sure everything was all right. And if making adjustments like that during a national convention like this doesn't share the experience of what COVID is, I don't think anything else will. Maybe they'll be making an appearance over the course of the convention. Our next performance is coming from Qatari and Lexi Halderman. Qatari was given the traditional name of Rainbow Girl in 2013 following the Southern Alberta floods, representing the hope that comes after a storm. As we continue to help Canadians through this global pandemic, hope after a storm is an apt representation. The 2021 Calgary Stampede poster was designed by Lexi as a beautiful representation of Qatari's dancing. Lexi felt the image is about optimism and showcases her standing strong and looking forward with determination. And now let's take a moment to enjoy this next performance.
Hi, my name is Lexi Hilderman. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm so pleased to be joining you virtually for the National Liberal Convention. I had the amazing opportunity and experience of participating in the Calgary Stampede Youth Poster Contest, where I worked with various mentors and artists in developing a piece of art that I thought best represented the Calgary Stampede. Through this process, I met an amazing individual, Qatari Lane Right-Hand, who dances every year at the Calgary Stampede. Her story is what inspired me to develop a piece that was so full of passion. Her Blackfoot name, Rainbow Girl, was given to her after the 2013 floods here in Alberta. It is a symbol of hope, resilience, and new generation as we move forward into the future. I believe that Qatari is an incredible representation of the legacy and vibrancy of Indigenous youth here in Alberta, and I wanted to celebrate her story as well as the many stories of others like her with my work and for the Calgary Stampede. It has been the greatest honor to have my piece chosen to represent the 2021 Calgary Stampede and to carry the legacy of culture, celebration, and community into the future. Thank you again for having me here to share my work, and I hope you have a great rest of your convention.
Thank you, Lexi and Katari. That was beautiful. And to our Métis fiddlers, what a wonderful way to keep the energy high as we launch into a packed convention in the days ahead. Our last conversation of the day is with two people who have both had the great responsibility of ensuring Canadians are supported at key moments in our country's history and ensure our economy remains stable and robust. I know we will all enjoy this conversation with Chrystia Freeland and Ken Dryden on building a better, stronger, and more resilient Canada. And I'm pleased to welcome them to the 2021 Liberal National Convention. Chrystia, my hands are full, so I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, well, it is wonderful to see you, Terry, and wonderful to see your beautiful girls. Hi. Je veux commencer en vraiment appuyer mon cher collègue Stephen Guilbeault pour son excellent discours. Et je veux vraiment souligner à quel niveau je suis d'accord avec lui que c'est le moment pour vraiment avoir du justice dans notre travail avec les géants du technologie. Et je suis complètement d'accord avec lui que le moment est arrivé. Dans l'énoncé économique de l'automne, on a dit que le Canada va lever un impôt sur les services digitaux au début de 2022 en manière unilatérale si ce sera nécessaire. Mais je suis aussi d'accord avec Stephen que j'ai beaucoup d'optimisme sur la possibilité de faire ça en manière multilatérale. Cette semaine, j'ai eu une excellente réunion bilatérale avec la secrétaire Janet Yellen et on a discuté ce sujet et aussi on a eu des bonnes conversations sur ça au niveau de G7 et G20. Alors, Stephen, on va faire ça. On va faire ça dans une manière collaborative avec nos alliés autour du monde et je t'appuie fortement. Okay, great to be here tonight. Hi everyone, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Je suis très ravie d'être parmi vous ce soir. And I am especially happy because I have a chance to talk to, and we all have a chance to listen to a truly great Canadian and a great Liberal, the amazing Ken Dryden. So Ken, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure, and I have to say it's a real honor. I want to start, Ken, by asking you how you tackled the huge challenge which another great Canadian Liberal, the amazing Paul Martin, handed to you after the 2004 election. Liberals had campaigned on a promise to spend $5 billion and to build universal early learning and childcare. That's a big promise, and we all know as politicians that the hard work actually starts the day after the election, when you have to really figure out in very practical terms, how do you make that promise a reality? And Ken, you came so achingly close. You got pretty far along the road. So tell me how you started off.
first of all, thanks for inviting me. I'm really glad to have the chance to have this opportunity or this conversation. Paul Martin, a couple of weeks after the election, gave me a call and asked me if I would be the Minister of Social Development. And one of the responsibilities had to do with early learning and childcare. And so, as you say, the real question is, it was one of the big promises in the campaign. So how do we deliver on that promise? And one of the challenges was that there had been a lot of promises that had been made over more than a decade, really, in terms of childcare. And so while there was some enthusiasm amongst the public and the advocates for the program, the question was, could we deliver, and were we really serious about delivering? And the first thing we had to do is to try to persuade people that, no, actually we are serious, that this was a promise that was made in a campaign, and it's time. It's time to deliver on it. And the first really big question, I think, was that, as you mentioned, the promise was really in two parts. It was $5 billion over 5 years, and then it was to create a system of early learning and childcare across the country. And those are two different things that can be achieved in different ways. And so the question was, what was the most basic promise, the most important promise? And to me, what it was the second one. It was, how do you create a system of early learning and childcare across the country? The $5 billion over 5 years was the most important instrument that we had at that moment to set that in motion. But the question is that once 5 years is up, were we still going to be around? Were we genuinely serious? And programs come and go, systems come and stay. And so that was the first thing, is to make sure that we had that kind of understanding. Because if we did, then that would determine what the real strategy was and how to deal with the advocates and how to deal with the provinces in it. And then it got interesting. And so the question was in it is that systems, I mean, in my mind, I had two reference points. I had the healthcare system and the education system. And both of them took a long time to evolve. They started from next to nothing. They were somewhat haphazard and random. There were lots of different ways in which they were delivered. They were far from universal. But the key with a system is, again, that it's going to be around tomorrow. If you can create it, it will stay. And it would be extremely difficult for any subsequent government of any party to then dismantle it. And so that was the task. And it was to try to persuade the advocates, first of all. And that was an interesting, it was an interesting conversation, because they, as all of us know, anybody who works in childcare is dedicated. They are committed. They have been doing this for years and years and years, and they believe in the importance of it. The problem that they had over all of these years is, one, the promises that were made were not kept. And second of all, what that left them with was small fights to fight. And so, it may have to do with, to ensure that the next money that is spent is for a public delivery as opposed to private delivery. An important question, but as we were trying to get across to them, is that this is the time to fight the big fight. That in fact, if we're serious, and we're going to be serious, then this is the big fight. And so engage this big fight, and know that when you create a system, as healthcare was and education was, you're not going to have something that is perfect at the beginning. You're going to learn as you do. You're going to discover some of the things that don't work. You're going to discover what works better. The public is going to develop an appetite. You may be leading the things at the beginning, but if you do it right, you're going to be following the public. I mean, the public is going to have this appetite and taste for something that is more. That's what happened with healthcare. That's what happened with education. And so that was the initial focus, the initial reference point, and something that we never forgot as we were approaching things.
So, Ken, I have written down in big letters on my notebook here, fight the big fight and build systems. And that is such excellent advice for early learning and childcare, and I would say in general for being effective in government. Et je suis complètement d'accord avec vous en ce qui concerne un système et que si on peut créer un système, on aura quelque chose qui durera. Et je pense que le Québec démontre ça pour tout le Canada. Et nous devons maintenant, en ce qui concerne les garderies, nous ne devons pas maintenant regarder les exemples des autres pays. Nous avons l'excellent exemple du Québec qui a fait ça et qui a déjà les résultats excellents au niveau économique, au niveau social et, comme vous avez dit, au niveau d'appui social pour ce système. Alors, excellent conseil. And listening to you, Ken, it reminds me of so many conversations I've had with my excellent colleague, Ahmed Hussen, precisely around this issue of building a system that lasts. And I love the parallels with healthcare and public education. But, you know, I'm a politician. You've been a politician. And there can be this anxiety in politics that if you don't deliver immediately, if you don't show results tomorrow, it will be hard to maintain the support of Canadians. It will be hard to keep them patient and with you. How do you think we should approach that challenge with early learning and childcare? The trade-off between delivering tomorrow and building a system, because building a system, it takes time, right?
Well, I think that's entirely correct. And I think that we go back again to the examples of the education system and the healthcare system. If those arguments were front and center 100 years ago, 150 years ago, however long it was ago, that serious discussions and considerations were there in terms of education and of healthcare, then people at that time would have said, well, you know, why begin? Like, what's the impact going to be? It's going to take so long to do it. That, you know, we don't know what the result is going to be, and that kind of thinking would have, you know, I mean, if that had predominated, we would have no education system, we would have no healthcare system. You know, I think all of us, all that we can do is say to ourselves, you know, what are those things that might have real impact? And using the example that you were saying, and of you know, what are we going to see tomorrow? I think that that we have that in our minds, but there's another part of us as well, that sometime it will be 10 years from when we were members of parliament or members of cabinet, and it might be 20 years, and it will be looking back and saying, what did we do? What would we do? What did we do during that time? We did a whole lot of things that delivered something that was a little bit more interesting tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. But really, what impact? Why were we there? Why did we get involved in this? With what real purpose? How did we change things? How did we make things any better than they were? I mean, you know, the first question, which seems like the hardest one, of how can you see the impact tomorrow? That's nothing like the question that all of us are going to be faced with, by ourselves, let alone by others, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. What did we get into this for? I mean, to just kind of manage our way, things are basically okay. And we do, no. I mean, it's too clear now in terms of the importance of education and learning in our lives and in our children's lives. It's too clear now the effect of early learning on the development of a child, and whether it is the personal impact, the family impact, the community impact, the national impact. And so it's like, are you serious or not? I mean, is this about learning? Is this about preparation? Is this about the future? Is this about something important? Or is this just stuff?
Fight the big fights, Ken. And, listening to you talk about the need to build for the future and be confident we can do that, it reminds me of so many conversations with our Prime Minister, with Prime Minister Trudeau, and of the advice, I would even say the instruction he gives to his cabinet, to his caucus. He is always telling us, we are here to make a difference. And he says something else, which is very related to what you've just said, Ken, which is trust Canadians. Canadians are smart. And by the way, just as a little footnote, we actually are smart. Did you know that Canada has the best educated people in the OECD? So it's not just bragging. But, the Prime Minister has this great belief, trust Canadians, they're smart. If you're doing the right thing, they will support you. And I really believe that as politicians, as Liberals, as leaders, we have to trust Canadians that if we can lay out a vision to be transformative in positive ways, to build systems that will make Canada better, yes, today, but also 10 and 20 years from now, Canadians will support that. Canadians get that a transformative system is not built overnight. So I love your conviction that we can do it, and I share that so much.
Well, and as well as that, and it's along the same lines, is that, and it was one of the things that we faced in it, was that because the promises had been broken, because there wasn't a trust that they had, that others had in us, that what it meant was that that so long as the sun was shining, and the advocates felt as if you had to make every decision for the future right at that moment, because the next moment couldn't be trusted, and the moment after that couldn't be trusted. And it was as if everything had to be carved in stone. And as I would say back to people, is that no, I mean, what that suggests is that we are the smartest people in the history of the world, and we are the smartest people that will ever be in terms of the history of the world, that we have all of the answers right now. And what I would say back is that people a year from now will be smarter than us because they will have 1 year's experience and learning on us. And 5 years and 10 years and 15 years from now, they'll be 15 years smarter. And so again, you set it in motion. You set it in motion as best you can. You do it as well as you can with the biggest possible impact. And then it starts to roll. The appetite for it starts to present itself. People want more rather than questioning more and advocating less. No, this is and of course this to me is the absolute opportunity for it, because I mean, if we've learned a lot of lessons in the last year, but one of the lessons we've learned is how important our teachers are, our school system is, our childcare providers are, the childcare is, all of a sudden we have our kids at home a whole lot more. And we've got to try to find a way of helping them develop in this way. And we know much better now than we did a year ago how difficult that is. And I think that there's that much more of a respect than had been the case. And also a far better understanding of how a school system and a childcare system is really central to the way in which we live. I mean, the debate is over. I mean, it is part of our life. It is how we live now. It is how we are going to live tomorrow. It is how we, prepare and develop our kids. It's there. It's present. And for heaven's sakes, all that it requires is for any of us to just reflect the experience that we've had in this last year and to know how important this is. And not just, again, for the preparation of our kids, but the custodial care of it, the possibilities that it offers in terms of the parents being able to do things with do their work with a free and open mind and the way in which they need to do it. This is all central to the way we live.
Ken, I could not agree with you more passionately about what you've just said. And, you talked about how even in 2004, childcare advocates, and by the way, you are so right, they are the most passionate, committed people. But even then, they were skeptical. Could this actually be done? They had heard for so many years, so many governments saying, yes, we're going to try to do this. And I can tell you from my own life, I was 2 years old when the Royal Commission on the Status of Women said Canada needed an early learning and childcare system. And my mother, who was an amazing person, was a feminist in Northern Alberta then, and she fought for it. And I remember meetings in the kitchen in our house with my mom and her pals getting together and trying to build this. I was 2 years old, Ken. My eldest child is now 20, and we still don't have it. So I really understand that skepticism that advocates have. But one of the things that I think should give us all optimism on this is what you've just said, which is I really believe COVID has created a window of political opportunity and maybe an epiphany, as you put it, on the importance of early learning and childcare. When you were talking about people needing to do their jobs now with their kids underfoot, I saw Terry Beech kind of waving and sighing to us on the screen. And a lot of people who didn't have to worry about early learning and childcare, now COVID has brought it into their lives. And I think that creates a real opportunity for us. But I would add one more thing, which is one of the consequences of COVID, I think, is to have brought the economic arguments to the fore when it comes to making the case for early learning and childcare. Because we have seen what I consider to be an incredibly dangerous drop in the participation of women in the labor force, precisely because of the COVID impact that you have been talking about, Ken. And so, I believe in early learning and childcare because I want us to raise a generation of super kids, super Canadians, who have the best education possible from their early years. I believe in it because it's a feminist policy. But you know what? I am finance minister, and I believe in it because it is a surefire way to drive jobs and economic growth. It's actually a triple play, right? Because you have higher participation of women in the labor force. Quebec shows it. Quebec has the highest participation of women in the labor force with children under 3, not just in Canada, but in the whole world. Bravo, nos amis au Québec. Excellent. You create great jobs in early learning and childcare, and you give our kids a great, great start in life. And something that has really struck me, I have spent this week at IMF meetings. This is the week for the spring meetings of the World Bank and IMF. And at meetings of G7 finance ministers, G20 finance ministers, and the IMF governing body, the decline in women's participation in the labor force has come up. I may have raised it a few times myself. And the value of increasing that in our fight against COVID. And I'll tell you who are two of the people who are the most committed to this are Kamala Harris and Janet Yellen. And they have both told me how important early learning and childcare is from their perspective as a driver of the economic recovery. So my hope, and I want to see if you agree with me about this, is that being able to make that economic argument as well is going to be one of the ways that we get this done.
I think, again, the evidence of the last year, it's square in front of our faces. If it is there to be seen and not to be dismissed or denied or it's there. I mean, my approach was always in terms of sort of the individual development, and I always thought that that what is it that we can actually leave to our kids? I mean, we can, if we do well enough, we can leave a little bit of a nest egg here. We can, raise them in a certain way, and maybe that they will learn certain values. But one of the biggest things, and maybe the biggest thing that we can pass on, is the capacity to learn. I mean, that we have no idea what tomorrow is going to be like. We have to find a way of having the capacity to cope with tomorrow. And whether it is coping with tomorrow socially or politically or economically. I mean, that's the surest footing that we have. It is our minds, is our capacity to learn. It is the basis of any kind of successful economic system, is a well-educated population. And what is the understanding of the best kind of education available that at any particular point? 150 years ago, it was elementary school and maybe a little bit of high school. And then it was high school. And then in more recent years, it's colleges and universities. And now what it is as well is that it's early learning and childcare. They're all part of a piece. They're all part of learning preparation, getting our kids as ready as possible for the future. And if that isn't, bedrock economics, I don't know what is.
Well, Ken, je suis complètement d'accord avec vous. Et je veux finir en vous remercier fortement. Vraiment, je veux vous remercier pour la conversation, mais surtout pour le travail historique que vous avez fait avec notre ami Paul Merton en 2004. Et vraiment, vous avez commencé le grand travail de créer, comme vous avez dit, un système de garderie, un système d'enseignement pour les plus jeunes Canadiens. And look, guys, we're all liberals here. This is a liberal convention. I think it's so important to remember and to honor the really groundbreaking work that Ken and Paul did on this issue. It's been heartbreaking for me, Ken. I've been going back and looking at how much you accomplished, and it's been heartbreaking for me that we weren't able to just fully go all the way then. But I want to tell you, listening to you now, hearing how far you got, hearing how strong those arguments are, and also, by the way, hearing from you something that I really, really agree with, that COVID has created a real epiphany in our country. And I can say now, having just been hanging out with the world's finance ministers around the world, about the importance of this issue. I really think, Ken, that now is the moment that Canada needs to get this done, that we need to build for the women of today and the parents of today. And sorry, guys, for just mentioning women in particular, but sadly, the reality is mothers still bear more of the burden. And for our youngest Canadians. So thank you very, very much for being so inspiring. Thank you for your hard work. I hope you know we're going to be calling on you for a lot of advice in the days to come. Et merci, chers collègues. Merci, chers amis libéraux autour du pays. C'était vraiment un plaisir pour moi d'être avec vous ce soir.
Merci, Chrystia.
Merci, Chrystia et Ken. Je savais que cette discussion serait passionnante et vous l'avez montré avec brio. Chrystia, I am really looking forward to our panel on Saturday on the topic of the recovery from the She session and how we can ensure that women come back fully into our economy. But I did want to mention that one of the things about your leadership style that I appreciate so much is that you cut through the noise with facts. And there's been a lot of noise, we know, but there's also a lot of great facts. Almost 10% growth in the last quarter of 2020, 9 consecutive months of job growth. And just recently, as you mentioned, the International Monetary Fund came out with a few projections, and one of them shows that Canada's economy will come out number 2 out of the entire G7 in recovery, and that's only behind the United States. Chers amis, le Congrès a décidément bien commencé. Merci à nos conférenciers principaux de ce soir. Vous avez tous donné le ton à notre congrès qui s'annonce fructueuse et bien rempli. Et ce n'est que le début. Nous commencerons la journée de demain par les assemblées de la Commission des peuples autochtones, la Commission des aînés, la Commission des jeunes libéraux et de la Commission libérale féminine nationale. Une séance congrès 101 est aussi prévue à l'intention des personnes qui cherchent des détails plus techniques. Une autre séance portera quant à elle sur les campagnes sécuritaires et inclusives. But as I said, this is just the start of a very full 3 days. We have so many inspiring and wonderful speakers lined up, as well as panels and roundtables, and of course, our policy discussions where grassroots ideas will be debated. Il faut en profiter au maximum. Merci d'avoir participé à cette première soirée de notre congrès. Très hâte de vous voir tous demain matin dès 10 heures et bonne nuit tout le monde.